Thank you very much, Richard. It is an honor to be here, particularly because I was here at the beginning of Silicon Harlem, and so to see the amazing transformation is really, it makes it an honor. So thank you, Clayton, thank you, Bruce. You did it the hard way. You worked really, really hard. So when I hear the theme of Rethink Everything, it couldn't come at a better time. Every so often, a technology comes around which completely changes everything. I think we know that. How we work, how we think, how we do things every day. And I firmly believe that we're in some kind of transformation. It's unfolding today with artificial intelligence and machine learning. I think you know that the World Economic Forum last month released a report which stated over 50% of jobs, maybe more, will be impacted and refocused by artificial intelligence, AI, over the next 5 years. And that's why Silicon Harlem is so important, because it brings this kind of information, which we'll have all day, to all of us. So we look forward to how these new capabilities can help us find solutions, what might hurt us. And it starts with elevating digital literacy so that everyone can take advantage of the opportunities and nobody's left behind. That's always been Silicon Harlem's theme. I know it's your theme, it's certainly mine. The programs that Silicon Harlem has committed to, they encourage STEM education in Harlem, or STEAM, or STEAM, or STEM. I put the A in there for art always. And they have hosted, as you heard from Clayton, hundreds of high school students. And they also, something very special for me, at previous conferences, demystified technology for senior citizens. My office has we have done hopefully our part, because we do put millions of your money into tech upgrades for Harlem schools. It's always a challenge to make sure that the teachers and the administrators and the parents are part of the same STEM field and knowledge. And of course, within 5 years, all of that is usually out of date. So it is a challenge to keep the Harlem schools and all schools up to date. We also partner something very special we're going to be doing soon with Beta NYC and CS for All. We're going to have a hackathon for high school students to talk about how they can solve problems using the data that I'll talk about in a minute. So I think that this kind of community-based technology, bootstrapping, is essential to make sure that everyone has the tools and the knowledge to thrive in the new economy. As some of you know, I was a technologist the best I could as chair of the tech committee on the city council for 8 years, 2002 on. That was very, very early. But it was there that I developed a keen interest in how technology could make government more transparent and open to innovation. Those are nice to talk about. Doing it is a different story. And that's why I'm so glad you're here today, because government does need to be transparent and does need to be innovative. Sometimes technology can help. My proudest moment was sponsoring New York City's open data law, which unlocks and unlocked a treasure trove of data about streets and crime, restaurant inspections, and other information gathered by 311 and city agencies. Some of you know the portal. We are actually the most data-rich city in the world. Between 311 data and other data, we're #1. In fact, companies, some of you may be representative of that, come here because of our data. What we have done is, with this data, is to try to work with the Beta NYC and students from CUNY. So what we do is we take the students, we train them on how to use the data. I'll talk more about this in a minute. And then we work with the community boards, 12 in Manhattan, 59 citywide. These are all the local city halls, so that they can use the data. So it's not just the real estate industry and the academics, but people in the neighborhood will know exactly what's going on in their neighborhood. It's really important to do that. This data does attract talent and tech money. Like I said, no other city can match us. And it is a place to innovate around big data and launch new products. So I hope everyone will look at it. You can find it at nyc.gov/data. You can see the numbers. You can see how open data can make your neighborhood a better place. You can check out the open data dashboard that we worked on with Beta NYC. The dashboard is called BoardStat, and it maps all of the 311 calls that have ever been made in every community board in the borough of Manhattan. And that's thanks to students from CUNY. You can also find it on our website at the Manhattan Borough President's Office by clicking community boards. And I want to just add that it's not an easy challenge to be able to work with students and then to get community members to use this data. This is what this data is for, but it has taken us 4 years to put this board stat together, and I want to thank Microsoft because they were very, very helpful. Just like you, I want to make Harlem one of the most advanced technology development environments in the world. And the one way to do it is to create a wireless network that is designed specifically for microcomputers. When you hear people talk about the Internet of Things, they may think about a smart light bulb that turns itself on when the sun sets, or a refrigerator that texts you when you're running low on milk. None of which I need, but that's what some people think of. But the Internet of Things can do much more than make our home smarter. It can make a smart city too. Smart city is the city that knows when its trash cans are full or when a water pipe is leaking beneath the street. A smart city is a city where owners are afraid to cut the heat on tenants because there are tenant advocates remotely keeping track of apartment temperatures during the winter. NYCHA could use that. This is the Internet of Things, but each thing or embedded device needs a way to get back to the Internet to be useful, and that's where our office comes in, but anybody who's working on these issues comes in. We partnered with the Things Network New York to create a wireless network that is dedicated to LOT, as you know, and it's all through Manhattan. The Things Network is about enabling low-power devices to use long-range gateways to connect to an open-source, decentralized network to exchange data. And we have LoRa in our office in Harlem and in the office at 1 Center Street. But this network will be cheaper and faster to stand up because it isn't Wi-Fi and it isn't LTE. The wireless standard is called LoRa, and it's perfect because it is low range, low bandwidth, and low power. The Things Network is currently running a network that covers Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and we were just there in February meeting with folks to talk about it. But here is New Amsterdam, and I think we can do better with coverage. Obviously, one of the issues that we could work on is, as we have all this construction, I know it's a good thing, but it's also challenging for neighborhoods and has a lot to do sometimes construction and the vehicles. What is the air quality? That's a wonderful real-time way to work with these devices. We're working to put them up in community boards, Silicon Harlem, and others so that we can get full coverage from one river to the other. So communities with vision and with skills can make big things happen. We can make our borough the best place on earth to develop Internet of Things technology. It all starts here in Harlem. I say that over and over again because Silicon Harlem has made that clear. One group of people has made a huge difference. But there are some other things that Silicon Harlem has also done. And I think you might hear soon about the National Science Foundation grant that Columbia and many other institutions working together. That in itself was a huge challenge that they overcame to be a test bed for the wireless and the 5G technology in West Harlem. The notion that schools will be helped and that somehow there will be STEM training and CCNY and figuring out how to increase and what wireless fast can really do for a community. That's an exciting project that Silicon Harlem had a lot to do with. Silicon Harlem is also working. The Furman family worked with Jeff Canada and those at the school that he founded, and they put together a free Wi-Fi up and down Frederick Douglass Boulevard, but the trouble is it's no longer active, but thanks to Silicon Harlem, there's an effort to work to make it reactivated. Again, when somebody's here, somebody's on the ground, things can happen. You also know that Northern Grumman, when I was in the city council, $500 million of your money went to put together a wireless network for first responders that hasn't been working as well as it should. So again, Silicon Harlem can work on that in Harlem because they're here. I also want to tell you one more piece about Harlem, not directly related, but the greatness of this community Manhattan Neighborhood Network. We've got a firehouse in East Harlem, and every single day they are training young people on how to work with media. Again, happening here in Harlem. Couldn't be better. The only trouble is, as you may know, the FCC is talking about cutting funds to public access. For New York City, it would be $300 million because of the way in which they want to change how the franchise process works. And I know there are people in the audience who know a lot about this. Something to fight, something to be aware of, something to make sure it does not happen. And then just finally, Civic Hall is a wonderful institution. You'll hear more from Andrew Wishay later, but they are building, with the city's support and my support and others, a center on 14th Street as time goes on, but it'll be training, training, training. We have to train for the jobs for the future. Harlem-based young people deserve that opportunity, and it's not necessarily happening now. So that kind of training, along with Silicon Harlem's training, can make sure that the workforce is diverse and that young people from Harlem get those good jobs. So there are so many ways that Silicon Harlem, I hope I have outlined them, is on the ground making a difference for this great community. Thank you very much. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you so much for your many years of commitment to technology and this community. I wanted to add a couple of the sponsors also of this event. Clayton hit them all. We wanted to add a couple, Internet Society, as well as Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, thanking them as well for supporting this 5th anniversary of Silicon Harlem. So thank you to those two sponsors as well. Up next, we also have more welcoming remarks and a person that knows this community quite well, Representative Adriano Espaillat, New York's 13th district, representing this district, has a strong interest in science, technology, STEM programs, and more. Representative.
Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to be here. Welcome to Harlem. The 13th Congressional District is an exceptional district. It has perhaps a mix of some of the most iconic neighborhoods in the entire world, not even in the United States, but I would say in the entire world. That makes us a pivotal place, an important place for Silicon Harlem to work in. You have Harlem, of course, which is the iconic capital of the African diaspora internationally, not just in the United States, but I would say internationally, and that's why you see people from all over the world come and visit Harlem. You have El Barrio, right next door to the east of us, which is the launching pad for the Puerto Rican Latino experience in New York City. You have Northern Manhattan, which is Hamilton Heights, Washington Heights, immigrant Northern Manhattan, with the George Washington Bridge as the gateway to New York City, a factory of dreams up there. And then, of course, you have the toughness, the gritty toughness of the Northwest Bronx. And so this is a very special place. And I think that Silicon Harlem plays an important role in doing what must be done to keep up to pace with the rest of the country and the world. And so I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to support the organization. I hope that when I get back to Congress this year, I will be in a far better place. And I would like to accentuate that, right? Hopefully, through the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, we can establish that infrastructure is not just roads, tunnels, and bridges. But most importantly, infrastructure have to provide us with the tools for Silicon Harlem to get this job done, right? It must be that way. And Silicon Harlem has established a growing tech ecosystem. I was recently at a press conference where there was an announcement of the 5G initiative that will be established here creating the opportunity not only for Silicon Harlem to flourish, but for investment to come into this neighborhood. Because the tech industry will not come to a community that is really a dinosaur in the way it does business. And so Upper Manhattan advocates of all citizens must participate in the digital economy. And this company is a partner with universities, right? Silicon Harlem partners with universities such as Columbia University to platform Upper Manhattan and Harlem as a key community to test advanced technology and next generation application and services. And Silicon Harlem is the first group to establish the community as a platform, CAP, community as a platform, putting community first. And that, I think, is so important. Of course, since 2013, Silicon Harlem has been helping building owners, residents, and small businesses and business owner adopt high-speed connectivity to move the community forward. So this is just one of the elements that Silicon Harlem has been working on. But we must, and I must stress, catch up to the rest of the world. And this is a fast and moving economy. You know, the Industrial Revolution, I went to Lawrence, Massachusetts, a place where Alexander Hamilton first allegedly started the Industrial Revolution. And I've gone to, particularly this season, I've gone to many of these smaller towns across the Northeast where you had a lot of factories back in the day, right? And the Industrial Revolution was a loud, steamy, sweaty revolution. You heard it, you saw it in so many different ways. But this revolution is quiet, silent, but it's explosive, right? It has so many elements to it, and it's so broad and complicated and far-reaching, and it moves at rapid speed. So for us, if we blink, we could be 50 years behind. So that's why organizations like Silicon Harlem are so important. But Silicon Harlem should be duplicated across the district. You must have a Hamilton Heights Silicon community. You must have a Washington Heights Silicon community. And I'm sure that Silicon Harlem could export their experiences to the other neighborhoods, as they are already, to other neighborhoods in the district and the city of New York. And we could be the envy of the rest of the city, if not the region. And so I'm happy to be here and be part of this initiative. I hope to continue to work with organizations like Silicon Harlem to ensure everyone, not only young people, but all of us, including those like myself under 35. And you can say that, young people in particular, children in particular, and our children in particular, are so gifted. I mean, I remember my grandson, when he was 21, when he was 1 year old, he was so in love with my iPhone, and I would give it to him, and he would just go with his little finger like that. And then one day I got him a fake phone. And he went like that, and he didn't move. And he did it again, and he didn't move. And he did it a third time, and he didn't move. He just went like that and threw it away. and so they have the aptitude for this, these young children of ours. And we must provide them with the avenue to move forward. And Silicon Harlem is doing that. So I encourage you to support Silicon Harlem. God bless you, and keep the faith. Sorry, I left my notes. I didn't even look at them.
Thank you so much, Representative. And I know he had the secret codes in that little binder, right? Right, Representative? And you don't want to leave that with me. It's really great to have all of these individuals that represent us as voters. And up next, we have Michael Blake, Assemblyman. Nope. Yep. Yep. Okay. Let me wind that one back. It's really great to have so many of our representatives here that we have voted for. And up next, we've got Michael Blake, New York Assemblyman from the 79th District and Vice Chair of the Democratic National Committee. Warm welcome for him, please.
Why Clayton trying to mess with my intro? I don't understand what's going on over here. You know, Clayton got that fancy blazer on, so he's feeling real good right now. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It is great to be back here and celebrate time with Silicon Harlem, and of course, to be back in Harlem itself always brings me joy. For those that I'm meeting for the first time, my name is Michael Blake. I have the honor of being the Assembly member of the 79th District in the South Bronx. Buenos días, dama caballero. Mi nombre es Miguel Blake, asambleísta para el Distrito 79. Felicidades. Look at you. I got surprised right there. Look at y'all. Y'all got that folks out here looking around like, whoa, what just happened right now? I thought he was just going to be out here chilling, but we're all good. Of course, to Clayton and to Bruce and everyone assembled, thank you for your leadership, my friends, and what they're doing. Let's give them a round of applause. 5th year, we're celebrating. And before I keep going, I have to just, as a point of personal privilege but reflection as Americans, I think we can all attest that regardless of the discourse that's going on, we should never be in a space where rhetoric is leading to bombs ending up in someone's home and their communities. We should be feeling safe in that manner. If you did not see, I was just reading it this morning that there were 2 more that were found on last night. One to Senator Booker and one to James Clapper. And I sent Senator Booker a text just to check in with him. And I said, look, if you need Jamaicans from the Bronx to come after you, we got you right now, you know. So he enjoyed that message there. You know, technology is how our cities will continue to advance and continue to make progress in so many different manners. When we think about the opportunity that's at hand, we can't ignore this. You know, for those that have not spent time with us in the South Bronx, let me give you some quick context. I represent from 153rd to 183rd, essentially a 31-block radius north to south. 126,000 people live in that radius. 108 schools. And people ask, well, how could you have that number of schools in such a small radius? Well, you all remember when Mayor Bloomberg was mayor, we went from large schools to small schools. So that impacted us tremendously at Morris High School and other schools and along that line. And so that connection of how do we address the dynamics, obviously, in moving our city forward is connected to technology. It's also timely that we're here on today when you're seeing the story that came out on last night about the renewal schools, the schools that have been struggling across the city that have been getting additional resources. And what we're often saying is, if we're serious about trying to transform our communities, the only way that's going to happen through technology. And that way that happens with technology is a connection on skills. You can't keep saying to someone, I hope that you're going to make it down the line unless you're actually giving them skills to make it. You know, I don't know about you, but I don't want someone to be a doctor to work on me in the emergency room who's never had practice. I don't want anyone that's working on your car that's never practiced on that before. And so why would we be surprised if you're not making that connection when it comes to technology? We have been focused on it in our district in that many ways. For example, Meta Bronx is an accelerator that came together, which is a great best practice. I would encourage you to learn about them, META Bronx, which Philip Scheer and their team that came together, Miguel Sanchez, to say it doesn't make sense that we're not bringing our tools and talents together in a more impactful way. They were able to support Access Bazaar because of the food opportunities that exist in the Bronx as a best practice in that manner. Many times we're not connecting our assets and utilizing it as connected to technology. You know, when you think about what happened with Superstorm Sandy, one of the main observations that occurred is that there were 200 businesses in that area that weren't talking to each other. So one had tomatoes, and the other had fruit, and the other had toiletries, the other had book bags, and they never had spent time actually planning. Well, we have to make sure that we utilize technology so that we're addressing our cities when it's not a crisis. It should not be just when a crisis and emergency that emerges where we start realizing technology can move us forward. So the investment happened with Meta Bronx into Access Bazaar to be able to move forward in that way and say, let's have a digital wholesale distribution channel for bodegas, because it should be easier for us to find more ways to partner with one another in that manner. Now, there's a broader dynamic that, of course, we have to address. When we think about the food deserts that exist in too many of our communities, but it was utilizing what was happening there in that manner. So, for example, when you think about a bodega, you have to be conscious of an intentionality around what's happening in those spaces, where sometimes you have the most unhealthy food placed in areas that are easier for the eyes to catch. Well, maybe if we make it easier so that you can utilize technology so you know that there's fresh food that are in areas that you may not be looking for immediately, it transforms our respective communities. What we saw is what happens all the time, that people look at these communities of color and entrepreneurs of color and think we shouldn't be investing in them. And therefore, then Meta Bronx had to make the conscious decision. How do we get more support to actually mobilize and keep going in this manner? The $1 million that then went to Access Bazaar was able to help address more of those dynamics in that way. It wasn't the only way we've looked at food and technology and how it moves our city forward. If you have not heard of Green Bronx Machine, I would encourage you to look us up as well. It's in Community School 55. It's led by Steve Ritz. It's a remarkable entity where Steve and Lizette and Michaela and their entire family has been able to utilize technology to transform things. For example, they've utilized an exercise bike to then create energy that then makes fresh fruit smoothies for the students in the school. Now, when you think about, well, why on earth would we want to be doing that? It gets young people to be thinking and recognizing that if I'm active in this manner, I then can utilize technology for good, so that you can then be the entrepreneur ahead of time. I tell people regularly, my family comes from Jamaica. My mom for 40 years worked in a manufacturing plant. My daddy for 29 years mopped hospital room floors. But we understand entrepreneurship because on Saturday afternoons when we have to sell dinners to pay our rent. But at the end of the day, we all have entrepreneurship in our spirit, but we have to utilize technology to move us forward. Technology moves us even forward when we understand how legislation plays into this. We were able to change the law so that now businesses that contract with New York State that are under 300 employees get paid in 15 days instead of 30 days. Why does that matter to you? I think you would matter getting paid faster. I think you would understand and appreciate that importance, because if you have to wait to get paid, then the employees have to wait to get paid. And we also recognize the intersectionality of this experience. When you are figuring out what's going on with your term sheet and your balance sheets, when you're figuring out with P&L, you're trying to assess that same intersectionality. How do I figure out what's happening here? You can't go with lowest bid sometimes when you have this other company that can easily go lowest bid. But what we've said is let's use technology to focus on best value and best bid in that manner to make sure you get more access to opportunities. We should make it easier for people of color and women to be able to have access to capital and contracting and counseling rather than the other way around. If we do that, we make it easier for technology to be a part of that intersectionality in that way as well. Furthermore, how do we make sure we move our cities forward? We find ways to be able to do that by utilizing access points that otherwise may not be attended to us, such as the Knowledge House, which Jalen Rodriguez and Joe have created, saying let's partner up and identify ways that people can find more opportunities through Perscolas, through Meta Bronx, through different entities, to focus on training and development of technology and skills. Realize that I'm always going to go back to the skills dynamic. Because too many times, it's not that we don't have access to the talent, it's that we don't have access to the opportunity. When we regularly think about the young brother and young sister that's standing on the corner, we know that they're a genius. Because quite frankly, everybody, if they're off by a decimal point, their life is gone. But they haven't been connected to the opportunity. We haven't shown them what happens when you can actually utilize that same brilliance for good. We often say in our office, your block won't block your blessing, your zip code won't deny your destiny. Well, we have to think about it that way when we think about how technology can move us further along. Equally, when we think about the access points that exist, clearly we see what's happening here when we think about technology. And if we want to say how technology can move our cities forward, then we have to be very focused in making sure that our communities and companies, such as Google and Intel and others, are actually making sure that people of color and women are in senior roles. That we have to understand that we can't just hope for things to happen. We have to ensure that it happens. It's the reason why we made it a point to look at the Rooney Rule and how to make it applicable in technology. If you're not aware of the Rooney Rule, it happens in the NFL when they saw that they weren't hiring black coaches in any real manner. So now at least one of the finalists has to be a person of color. Well, what if we apply that same dynamic to technology? Clearly, it makes sense to have us move us forward because we shouldn't just be the consumers of technology, but let's be the creators. And the way we're able to do that is by actually being in the seats of power to move that ball forward. Why does it matter? Because we understand that, according to the Minority Business Development Agency, that by 2042, people of color will be the majority in this country. We understand that in Texas, that you have more babies of color being born than white babies at this time. Take it a step further. There are 50,000 Latinos that are turning 18 every single month in this country. So it makes sense for us to find ways to partner up and collaborate. Go a little step further. If we're here in New York, we understand the intersectionality, again, between technology and entrepreneurship around our immigrants of color. And I always say this, let's remind Donald Trump that we come from spectacular countries and nothing else otherwise. When we think about the opportunity that exists, it's making sure that we go a step further in that manner. So, for example, Here to Here, it's a collaboration. Abby Jo Siegel, Judy Diamond and others have said, for 14 to 26-year-old young people that have been disconnected, let's connect you to those opportunities in a more measurable way. So then you partner up with Project Destin, so that Cedric Bobo and Fred Green and Alex Rodriguez can come together and say, let's find ways to talk to young people about housing and the language of money around housing, putting them through a boot camp to, again, show how technology can move our cities forward in a measurable way. Lastly, when we think about the opportunity that exists, it's the recognition that we don't want people to only be talking about Silicon Valley. We want them to talk about Silicon Alley. We want them to look at what's happening here. And the recognition that it's not just what's going on in Brooklyn, which obviously is exciting. It's also what's happening in Harlem. It's also what's happening in the South Bronx. It's also what's happening out in Queens in that different dynamic. And recognizing that that dichotomy makes us all stronger in that particular way. We've created a vision in our office called 3-2-1. The 3 E's of economic development, education, and equity. The 2 paths of making sure that we're focusing on minority and women-owned businesses that have access to the capital, contracting, and counseling, while equally having a career-oriented education so a kid can go from the cradle to the career, with the one goal of transforming the South Bronx to become the urban metropolis of the world. We think about this and mobilize this to utilize technology in more manners to move our cities forward. For example, Promise. It is an entity that's been funded by Jay-Z. It's led by Phaedra Ellis-Lampkins to focus on bail reform. Now, how can technology be connected to criminal justice? Well, they created this platform to say to district attorneys, we promise that we can find ways to make sure that an individual will come back for their hearings that will occur. Now, I think that would make sense when we think about what's going on here in New York City, when there's a conversation around Rikers. And what I say often is, don't talk to me about closing Rikers, just a building, if you're not changing the culture. Don't build many Rikers across the city unless you're addressing the dynamics that are happening on the ground. Before the person was incarcerated, did they have a job? Did they have schooling? Did we address bail? Did we address open discovery and speedy trial? Do we recognize that 87% of the people that are Rikers right now haven't been convicted of anything at all? So it is the understanding of the connection of how technology can do well and do good at the same time. When we think about the elections, I don't know about you, I think about the elections just a little bit right now. But it's that understanding of how do you move forward and utilize the technology in that manner. For example, I'm one of the vice chairs of the Democratic National Committee, and we've found ways to use technology in a much more targeted way to mobilize people to go vote, in which we've created a website, iwillvote.com, which didn't exist before, so that you can have in one central place the information in your particular communities. But take it a step further. Number one, we purchased 94 million cell phone records across the country to make it easier to have direct engagement with individuals. Because I don't know about you, I don't have a landline in my house. I don't remember the last time I had a landline in my house, and I don't want to be paying those 2 bills. It doesn't really make much sense to be doing that in that way. Take it a step further. Hustle has been created to have much more direct engagement with individuals so that you can talk to them in real time on what's going on in their respective communities. We created iwillrun.org in one central place to have an access data bank of all the different programs that are out there for you. But take it even further than that. For anyone in this room, obviously, if we're here in New Yorkers, we have connections to our brothers and sisters of Puerto Rico. We were able to then identify the 787 area codes and focus an area around the country where for 30 consecutive days, it was pinging off of towers. And we saw it primarily, in addition to New York, it was happening in Pennsylvania and Puerto Rico. And it wasn't just 1,000 or 10,000 or 20,000. It was 300,000 pings that were happening off those towers, which we were then able to take that data and connect it to the organizers on the ground to say, you have brothers and sisters from Puerto Rico that are in Pennsylvania and Florida right now that need access to be able to go out and vote and mobilize in that way. How does technology move our cities forward? It's the understanding when you get ready for the census. Many people may not realize this, that when the census occurs and that process really gets going next year, It will be happening through tablets this time, not through paper. So you think about how policies are connected to the principles. I think about this. Do you feel comfortable with someone showing up at your doorstep and saying, you know what, the federal government has been telling you for the last 2 years in every possible way that they have discriminatory policies, but just trust me with your data? So you have to recognize that technology is going to move our cities forward in that manner. Lastly, it would be irresponsible for me to leave here and not talk about how Russia is connected to this as well. Because there are 20 states that have indicated their voting systems have been impacted because of Russia consistently still attacking them. This is not some theoretical exercise from 2016. This is happening right now. So we've spent more energy in voter protection and mobilization, and we look to partner with you as well when it comes to technology in that manner. I close this out by saying this. Thank you. Thank you for understanding the importance of how technology can move our cities forward. Thank you for being a part of the process to transform what's going on in our communities all across New York City and all across our state. Thank you for being a part of the process that actually gives us a chance, it gives us hope. And the reason why I continue to do this work is I think about those that open up doors for us before. I mentioned how we've obviously been engaged in voting in technology. Well, on primary day this year, 4 years ago, about 580,000 people showed up. This year, 1.5 million people showed up. Now, as a part of that was a woman named Edith Kanya. Edith is 87 years old. We went to different locations and we asked people, do you need a ride to the polls? She said, absolutely. Assemblyman helping me get a ride to the polls. She finished voting and she said, Assemblyman, thank you so much because I've always loved to go vote. I said, of course, Ms. Kanya, that's what we're going to make sure to have happen. And then she said, as we were walking almost casually, you know, Assemblyman, the first time I went to go vote, I had to take a literacy test. And it makes you stop and pause for a second. And I said, ma'am, I'm sorry, can you say that again, what you just said to me? And she said, Assemblyman, I'm from Fort Mont, South Carolina. And in 1964, I had to take a literacy test to go vote the first time. Now I said, wait, you said you had to take, she said, yes, I had to take a literacy test. And she said, I've never missed an election ever since. If 87-year-old Edith Kanya with a walker could be determined to make sure she exercised her right to vote, then what we need to do is make sure we're partnering with Silicon Harlem, all different allies, to utilize technology to transform the game for everybody. What's the point of people transforming our lives in the last 50-plus years if we're going to sit on the sideline right now? So in the words of Dr. King, in the end, we will not be remembered by the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Well, it may be silent when you're utilizing an app, but technology can give someone a voice. Thank you, and God bless you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Assemblyman, so much for your impassioned remarks to welcome everybody today here to Silicon Harlem. And up next, a very familiar name from this community, Lloyd Williams, CEO of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, also chairman of Harlem Week. And if some of you don't know this, the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce is the fourth oldest in the country, over 120 years old. Lloyd.
Just as a point, I hope you know that our Assemblyman has announced that he's a candidate for public advocate. So if you appreciate his remarks and comments and direction, perhaps you can reach out to him and give him some thoughts about what you would like for he to have in his platform as he runs for public advocate, okay? Let me, first of all, good morning. How you all doing? Okay, my name is Lloyd Williams. I serve as the president of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce and also as chairman of Harlem Week. Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce is this year celebrating its 122nd year of continued service. In this city, 1896, it was formed, and Harlem Week next year will be celebrating its 45th anniversary. One of the key things with the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce is that 2 years ago, the Chamber established its mission statement for the next decade, meaning a 10-year period, of course. And the number one thing it sought to prioritize was that of technology. As a result, Clayton Banks, who's a member of the executive board of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, and Curtis Archer, president of Harlem Community Development Corporation, have been charged by our chamber to focus on our economic technology initiative. And what we are concerned with is the subject of digital literacy in particular. As a result of that, Curtis Archer, Clayton Banks, Vince Boudreau, the president of City College of New York, Lee Bollinger, Columbia University president, and a number of us are working together on something that will be announced by Silicon Harlem at its next gathering in the first quarter of next year, called the 135th Street Initiative. I will not take your time to explain that to you. It will be better presented by Mr. Banks and Bruce at a meeting next year. We do a number of things with Silicon Harlem, in addition to Clayton being a good personal friend and an extension of my family. He's my brother. And by the way, those of you who had an opportunity to witness this before, I believe that Clayton deserves another round of applause for the jacket that he has on. Let's give, and those of you who have not seen it, I didn't know he was in the audience, but there he is with that jacket, okay? Let me just move. Here's what we do, so I don't want to consume all of your time. We focus, the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce and Silicon Harlem, we focus beginning with kindergarten up to our senior citizens. During the two-day New York City Children's Festival in August, we focus on robotics for our children. We do, in concert with the NYC and Company and the Intrepid Air and Space Museum every year, a citywide hackathon for our youth. We also have an annual conference together during Harlem Week at Columbia University. This year, in August, we focused on cybersecurity with Silicon Harlem and had Cy Vance, the Manhattan DA, to be our speaker. But one of the most important things that we do each year is we focus on demystifying technology. And who is that for? It's for our senior citizens. Demystifying technology. Many of our seniors who are trapped in one room or in an apartment can liberate themselves by mastering technology. They can visit their sisters and their grandchildren and their best friends who are in different states, in different parts of the city, in different countries, by finding a way to master technology and face-to-face and how they can communicate. We are concerned about how they deal with their health issues, and technology can allow them to master that. How they deal with their banking issues, and technology can help them to master that. But they can talk to people, and particularly that face-to-face piece that can happen, that they're dealing with their best friend who they haven't seen in 50 years face-to-face, but they can see them through technology. So without consuming your time, because you've heard a lot of words and they're all been important, I want to thank you for coming out. For the Harlems of this world. And with us, Harlem is not a geographical area. It's a state of mind. And so therefore, wherever there are people of color, we say they are in a Harlem state of mind. And so oftentimes what we accomplish in Harlem travels, it resonates to Cicero, Illinois, to Roxbury, Massachusetts, to Kingston, Jamaica, to Watts, LA. So if we can accomplish certain things in Harlem with digital literacy, we will open up those opportunities around the country, around the region, around the globe. So I thank you very much for coming out. We always say to others at our meetings, when you come to this meeting, your charge is to walk out this door having introduced yourself to 2 persons minimum that you did not know when you walked in the door. Because if there are so many places on the face of the earth that you could be at this moment, and you are all in this hallowed ground together, then you have commonality. So reach out to each other, find out what that commonality is, and Harlem needs you. And I thank all of the sponsors because they're all members of our chamber. And I want to take this opportunity to say we're proud of you. And please have a great day, learn a lot, and share with others. Thank you for your time.
Lloyd, thank you so much for your leadership over the years, and thank you for your commitment to this community. Of course, this great gathering that we have here today. Also showing their great commitment is T-Mobile, and I'd like to welcome up Terry Hayes, the Senior Vice President for the Northeast of the United States. Terry.
Thank you, Richard. Good morning, everybody. We're pretty excited to be here in Harlem. First, I'd like to really congratulate Bruce and Clayton, 5th year anniversary for a great organization. It's awesome. We're excited to be here because this is kind of where we started. We are now, a national company, not only competing but actually kicking the daylights out of AT&T and Verizon. But we started here. Our first license was here in a company called OmniPoint. And we didn't have a lot of base stations. We couldn't serve people all over the country. But we could serve people in the Bronx, in Brooklyn, in Harlem. And you all served us well and helped us build our company to where it is today. So it's great to be here and advancing technology for certain. The whole theme of this conference, Rethink, is very much in line with what we do at T-Mobile. We like to rethink everything. We like to rethink technology, the way people use technology, status quo. We call ourselves the uncarrier because we are not a carrier. We are not like the others. We like making big changes for the benefit of consumers and the benefit of application developers and the benefit of businesses. We have made many changes in the industry from elimination of contracts to enabling video over wireless to making unlimited a standard, which it is today, for people to use. We at T-Mobile like to use the term, we won't stop. And I think that's pretty much aligned with what we're going here in Silicon Harlem. We won't stop to develop, to think forward. Many people might be wowed by what the things that technology has brought us to date. But it's organizations like Silicon Harlem that will help us open our minds to things that could happen going forward. Who would have thought 5 years ago that you could touch a tiny piece of glass and a stranger would pull up in their car, right? Pick you up, drive you anywhere you want to go, let you out without you having to pick up, give a credit card or a wallet or cash. Crazy, right? Who would have thought, 10 years ago that you could order a new pair of sneakers from a subway station while waiting for a train? It's crazy. Who would have thought of the different things that have changed, that you could be at a birthday party and take a film, either a video or a picture, and send it to hundreds or thousands of people? Who would have thought? Well, that's nothing compared to where we're going. And it's organizations like Silicon Harlem that open up our minds to that. The power of 5G is coming our way. The power of very, very high-speed data, very low latency data, real-time data, will fuel all kinds of applications, from autonomous cars to remote medical treatments to drone delivery services. How would you like to watch the World Series or be at the World Series in LA tonight while sitting in your living room? That's going to be here. How about drone taxis to get around the traffic and avoid subways around here? That would be pretty cool, right? This all could happen and will happen. Many think of 5G as a way to provide new fixed line service just to lower the cost and ease of putting in fiber. We don't. At T-Mobile, we see 5G as a way to unleash the creativity of people. We see 5G as a way of empowering entrepreneurs to develop new applications, to create new businesses, to create new jobs, and help stimulate the economies in our neighborhoods. That's the power of 5G, and that's where we're going. You know, all this innovation is great, but as said earlier in one of the discussions here, we need to be inclusive with this innovation. Last year, we gave 5,000 tablets to families, low-income families in the Bronx, and we gave them mobile internet service. I guess the requirement is you had to have a student under 19 in the house, and we gave it. Think about if we gave those folks 5G. Think about if we gave them some of the other technologies that are going to be discussed today. They could be the ones that are bringing forth the drone taxi service. They could be the ones that are rethinking where we're going. So I'll ask you, with all these discussions of new technology, where we're going and whatnot, that we are inclusive. At T-Mobile, it's the heart of what we do, what we believe in, and what we will continue to do. So I want to thank you all for letting T-Mobile be part of this. As I said, and it says on your badges, we won't stop, but it takes a community, and we're just glad to be part of that discussion. Thank you, and have a great conference here. We're looking forward to the other discussions. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Jerry. Well, how about that for an opening? We've had quite a run of amazing individuals here to say, let's get going in Silicon Harlem here for the Next Gen Tech Conference. And if you pull out your cards, guess what? We're on time. And that is, as you know, within itself an accomplishment. Before I head back to that small little building over at 30 Rock and have to get back to work at MSNBC and talk about stuff that's non-tech, I wanted to bring up the founder again, Clayton, to thank him for what he has been doing all these years personally. And Clayton, I wanted to thank you because my other life being a techie, I'm jealous of what you get to do now for the next rest of the day. But thank you as a community member and for all that you've done and bringing together, as you have said so many times, because I was Googling his interviews in the past, and he has been so consistent in getting out the message that you can have voices for everybody from all corners, and you can do it with tech. And you have never stopped all these years. You'd never know that you've been doing this for 50 years. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so and the best dressed guy here. So thanks.
How about Richard Louie, folks? We're sorry he has to leave, but Richard has made a really major commitment to Silicon Harlem. He's here on his own accord. There's nothing that we have to give him or anything like that. He comes here. He wants to share into this community and with all of you. And if you ever see him on TV, you know he's one of the most fair, knowledgeable, anchors in the business. Seriously. And I want to personally thank you because, you know, when anyone can call you outside their name, like he did me, Clayton Barnes, I'm Clayton Banks, you know we're tight friends. So thank you very much, Richard.
And no fists for flying.
There we go. That's right. Thank you. And give him one more hand, Richard Louie. Thank you, sir. And I do want to say that, by the way, I've got these interesting, beautiful, unique, and one-of-a-kind T-shirts that say, Rethink Everything, and on the back is the SiliconHarlem.net website address. So we have, you see the little round logos here? We've put stickers like this around the facility. There's like 10 of them. So if you can find one and peel it off and bring it to one of our volunteers, you will get a free T-shirt. All right? So after this main session, which we're going to start right now, you'll have a break. You can start looking for these things. They're all over the facility here, on this floor only, and you will be able to get the first and only, right now, T-shirt. Okay? You know, we're a tech company, so we like things interactive. So it gives you a chance to get interactive. Now we're about to bring up the first plenary. After this, we'll have a break. But as Richard said, we're trying to stay on time.